Hi, I'm Hobie Wan. This is Red Chair Reading. I'm on location right along the beautiful American River. I have the Black Book of Secrets, Chapter 5 to read today, and that's what I'll be doing in this video. Come along with me for the adventure of a lifetime. Chapter 5, fragment from the memoirs of Ludlow Fitch. I hadn't meant to tell Joe I was a pickpocket, and I don't know why I told him the truth. As for pawnbrokers, naturally I knew what they were. I'd been in and out of their shops enough times when I lived in the city. Whatever Ma and Pa managed to steal and had no use for, they pawned, or they sent me to do it. There were plenty of pawn shops, practically one on every corner, and they were open all hours. They were busiest after the weekend, when everyone had spent their wages on drink or lost them at the card table. By mid-morning on Mondays, a pawn shop window was quite a sight, believe me. People brought in every sort of thing: shirts, old shoes, pipes, crockery, anything that might fetch even a halfpenny. The pawnbroker, however, wouldn't take just anything, and the money he paid wasn't good at all. But when people grumbled that he was cheating, he would say, "I'm not a charity. Take it or leave it." And usually they took what he offered because they had no choice. Of course, you could always buy back what you pledged, but you had to pay more. That's how a pawnbroker made his money, getting rich from the poor. But Limbert Jellicoe wasn't like the others. For start, he was hidden away down a narrow lane off Pledge Street. You would only know he was there if you knew he was there, if you see what I mean. I found him because I was looking for somewhere to hide from Ma and Pa. The entrance to the lane was so narrow I had to go in sideways. When I looked up, I could see only a thin sliver of the smoky city sky. Mr. Jellicoe's shop was at the end of the lane, and at first I thought it was shut. Me too. But when I pressed my nose against the door, it swung inward. The pawnbroker was standing behind the counter, but he didn't see me. He looked as if he was in a daydream. I coughed. Sorry, said the man, blinking. "How can I help you, young lad?" he asked. Those were the first kind words I had heard all day. I gave him what I had, a ring I had taken from a lady's finger, a particular skill of mine to mesmerize unfortunate passers-by with my sorrowful gaze, while relieving them of the burden of their jewels. More geese. Mr. Jellicoe's eyebrows arched when he saw it. "Your mother's, I suppose?" he said, but he didn't push me for an answer. Mr. Jellicoe looked as poor as his customers. He wore clothes that people had never come back to claim, and he couldn't sell. His skin was white, starved of the sun, and had a light shine to it, like wet pastry. That's gross, man. His long fingernails were usually black, and his lined face was covered in gray stubble. There was always a drip at the end of his nose, and occasionally he wiped it away with a red handkerchief that he kept in his waistcoat pocket. That day he gave me a shilling for the ring, so I came back the next day with more spoils and received another. After that, I returned as often as I could. I don't know if Mr. Jellicoe made any money. His shop was rarely busy. The window was dirty, and there was never much on display. Once I saw a loaf of bread on the shelf. "Young lass," said Mr. Jellicoe, as I asked him about it. "She swapped the bread for a pot, so she could boil a ham. She'll be back tomorrow with the pot, and she'll take the bread, a little harder maybe, but it will soften in water." Such were the strange arrangements between pawnbroker and customer. I don't know why Mr. Jellicoe showed me such kindness, why he chose to feel sorry for me over the hundreds of other lads roaming the perilous streets. Whatever the reason, I wasn't complaining. I told him what Ma and Pa were like, how they treated me, how little they cared for me, many times when it was too cold to stay out, and I was too afraid to return home. He let me warm myself by his fire and gave me tea and bread. He taught me the alphabet and numbers and let me practice writing on the back of old pawn tickets. He showed me books and made me copy out page after page until he was satisfied with my handwriting. It has been remarked that my style is a little formal. I blame this on the texts from which I learned. Their authors were of a serious nature, writing of wars and history and great thinkers. There was little room for humor. In return for this learning, I carried out certain chores for Mr. Jellicoe. At first, I wrote out the price tags for the window, but as my writing improved, he let me log the pledge and monies in his record book. Occasionally, the door would open and we would have a customer. Mr. Jellicoe enjoyed talking and would detain them in conversation for quite some time before taking their pledge and paying them. I spent many hours in the back of the shop engaged in such tasks, and Ma and Pa never knew. I saw no reason to tell them about Mr. Jellicoe. They would only have demanded that I steal something from him. I had the opportunity many times, but although I would not hesitate to cheat my parents out of a few shillings, I could not betray Mr. Jellicoe. If this is interesting to you, please hit that like button. It'll help the video spread to other people, and thank you very much. I would have gone to him every day if I could, but he wasn't always there. The first time I found the shop closed, I thought he must have packed up and left. I was surprised that he hadn't said goodbye, even though it was the sort of thing I had come to expect from people. Then, a few days later, he came back. He didn't say where he had been, and I didn't ask. I was just glad to see him. This went on for almost 5 months, until the night I fled the city. As I lay in the fireplace that first night at Joe Zabadow's, I had only one regret, that I had left without saying goodbye to Limbart Jellicoe. There was little chance I would see him again. So when Joe said that he was a pawnbroker, I was pleased. He seemed different from Mr. Jellicoe, and I knew that Pagus Parvis was nothing like the city, but I felt safe. I thought I knew what to expect, but of course, I didn't know then what a secret pawnbroker was. All right. Thank you so much for watching. This is Hobie One. I'll see you next time in Chapter 6.